You know, in medicine, sometimes the most dangerous problems are the ones that look, well, deceptively simple. And today, we're going to dive into a tool designed to solve one of those exact problems, the extrapyramidal symptom rating scale. Okay, let's put you in the doctor's shoes for a second. You've given a patient an antipsychotic medication to treat their psychosis, but now they're showing some new symptoms. And here's the huge, high-stakes question you have to answer. Is this a side effect of the medicine you prescribed, or is the illness itself getting worse? Get it wrong, and the consequences can be, well, pretty serious.
And this isn't just some rare, one-off thing. It's a massive challenge in psychiatric care. And to solve it, we needed a whole new way of thinking about measurement itself.
So here's where it gets really tricky. These antipsychotic meds can cause something called drug-induced movement disorders, or DIMS. And the problem? They can look exactly like the psychiatric symptoms they're supposed to be treating. I mean, look at this. A facial mask from the drug? It's almost indistinguishable from the blunted affect you see in schizophrenia. Or that intense restlessness from a side effect called akathisia? A doctor could easily mistake that for agitation and anxiety. It's like walking through a clinical minefield. And this is where it gets really dangerous. So if a doctor mistakes that side effect for the illness, what's the logical next step? Up the dose of the medication, right? But that just makes the side effect worse. You end up in this vicious cycle that can seriously harm the patient, get in the way of their recovery, and in some really tragic cases, it's even been linked with suicide. Okay, so how on earth do you solve a problem this complicated, where even a trained doctor's eyes can be fooled? Well, you have to get rigorous. You have to turn to the science of measurement. And that field has a name, clinometrics. The best way to think about it is this. It's the science of creating a super precise, totally standardized ruler for things that are really hard to measure, like symptoms. It's all about taking those subjective observations, what a doctor sees, and turning them into objective, reliable data you can actually trust and compare. And you know, what's fascinating about this is that clinometrics isn't really about inventing some brand new, crazy complicated tests. As one researcher put it, it's kind of like that Molière character who was shocked to find out he'd been speaking in prose his whole life. Good clinicians were already doing these smart, systematic evaluations instinctively. Clinometrics just formalizes it, making it repeatable and reliable for everyone. Which brings us right to the solution that was born from all this science. The extrapyramidal symptom rating scale, or the ESRS for short. This scale was developed way back in 1976, and its job is incredibly specific. It's designed to accurately measure, and this is the key part, distinguish between the four main types of these drug-induced movement disorders. We're talking about things like parkinsonism, which can cause stiffness and tremors, and akathisia, that state of just intense, can't-sit-still restlessness. So, what does this actually look like in practice? The SRS isn't just some checklist, you know? It's a full-on, structured physical examination. So after a quick questionnaire, the examiner actually guides the patient through a series of very specific actions. They'll have the patient stick their arms out to check for tremors, do some rapid hand movements, walk back and forth so they can observe their gait. There's even a balance test. It's a really comprehensive hands-on assessment designed to get objective data, not just opinions. And to make this amazing tool even more useful, a shorter version called the ESRS-A was developed. This was a game changer because it meant a wider range of trained medical staff, not just specialist physician investigators, could use the scale, really broadening its impact on patient care. Okay, but a ruler is only good if it's accurate, right? So how do we know this thing actually works? Well, that's where the data comes in. The hero number here is 96%. Just let that sink in, 96%. That's the level of agreement between the ESRS and another gold standard test, the AIM scale, when it comes to identifying cases of tardive dyskinesia. I mean, that is an incredibly high level of agreement. In the world of clinometrics, this has a name, concurrent validity. All it means is that your new ruler measures the same thing as the old trusted ruler. It's the proof that the ESRS isn't just pulling numbers out of thin air. Its results line up perfectly with other proven methods. But here's another crucial piece of the puzzle: reliability. Look at these numbers. The scale has extremely high inter-rater reliability, with these coefficients that are super close to 1.0. Now, in plain English, that just means if you have two different doctors evaluate the exact same patient using this scale, they are going to get the same result almost every single time. The measurement is consistent, it's trustworthy. And finally, The scale is also highly sensitive, and that means it's sharp enough to pick up on even small but really meaningful changes in a patient's symptoms. This is absolutely vital, right? Because it tells you if a treatment adjustment is actually working or if a new medication is starting to cause some subtle side effects. Okay, so let's tie all this together. Why does having a precise, valid, and reliable scale like this matter so much in the real world, for real patients?
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it. The research shows that the ESRS is the only scale that has been scientifically proven to solve that exact problem we started with, telling the difference between drug-induced symptoms and the psychiatric symptoms themselves. It is literally the only tool that can reliably tell them apart. And the real-world impact of that is just immense. We're talking more accurate diagnoses, which lets doctors make better, more confident treatment decisions. It helps make clinical trials for new medicines safer and more effective. And, most importantly, it improves a patient's quality of life and builds a better doctor-patient relationship, where side effects can be properly spotted and managed. Ultimately, it breaks that dangerous feedback loop we talked about at the beginning. By being able to precisely measure a side effect for what it is, doctors can avoid that mistake of upping the dose and instead make targeted adjustments that actually help the patient get better. This whole story really boils down to one simple, powerful idea. If you can measure it, you can manage it. The ESRS is a perfect example of the profound impact you can have when you turn careful observation into hard data. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. What other areas of medicine are just waiting for their own perfect ruler?